Hello, this is Cho of the Shiny Colors Discord. Welcome to another episode of the Shiny Review. Today we have 4 cards that we're going to be talking about today, 2 of which are permanents. Then we have our 2 event cards. So we have a Produce SSR for Meguru, a Support SSR for Mikoto, a Produce SR for Kiriko, and a Support Returning SSR for Chiyoko. Remember that Meguru and Mikoto are both permanent. They're both pretty good, but I don't believe their banner has any sort of good benefit to it, so I wouldn't worry about it too much. You'll probably find Meguru and Mikoto later. Starting things off, we have Meguru. We've really been having a trend of dance and visual P-SSRs in the permanent pool these last few weeks. 2 Shiz cards, Nei, and now Meguru. Anyway, our harp-wielding Meguru this time around plays a much simpler role than usual, providing buffs for all attributes while dealing reasonable amounts of damage for the current day. Her memory appeal is fairly okay, but probably won't be beating out her limited counterpart anytime soon. Now, truth be told, it has been a year since Meguru 5, so Meguru 6 being built this way makes me believe we won't necessarily be seeing her reruns soon. Maybe that'll jinx it, hopefully. She's a real solid card, all things considered, for dance and visual teams. By herself, she sets up all of her passives, even if their activation chances are fairly low. She's a great consideration for Shiz teams, and great alongside Mano 6 if you lack Meguru 5. Her roles are maybe as a center, but she's definitely a buffer, and I moderately recommend pulling for Meguru. Meguru's initial skill is a visual 3.0 appeal that raises your vocal, dance, and visual by 20% for 4 turns, and links into a visual buff of 60% for 4 turns. Her 3-star skill is a dance 4.0 appeal that raises your vocal, dance, and visual by 40% for 4 turns, which links into a dance 60% buff for 4 turns. Meguru's 1-star passive is a vocal, dance, visual 30% up that requires at least 1 active vocal, dance, and visual buff together. So you need at least 1 vocal, alongside 1 dance and 1 visual. Doesn't cut it if you only have 1 of them, you're going to need all 3. This has a 10% chance to activate 3 times. Her 2-star passive is a vocal, dance, visual 50% up that has the same activation condition, at least 1 vocal and dance and visual buff. This has a 20% chance to activate 3 times. She also unlocks a visual uncap at 2 stars and a second 2-star passive, which is a dance 40% up that requires the turn count to be 3 or later. This has a 20% chance to activate twice. Her 3-star uncap is a dance visual plus 100, and her 4-star uncap is a dance plus 150. Her memory appeal once maxed out is a vocal, dance, visual 50% buff for 3 turns, and links into a dance visual 1.5 appeal. For the support recommendations, Idome supports haven't really changed the lineup too much in recent, especially in Meguru's case, since she's the one who's been getting most of the cards. The core here is pretty good, so if you have it, go for it. The excellent trio is great as always, alongside the Mano and Hiyori. Mixing in Straylight supports isn't a bad thing either, when you consider that Dance and Visual Straylight have good produced cards for Idome as well. Mamimi and Kiriko together continue to be a stupidly good option for dance-focused teams too. For the team recommendations, Idome could more or less have the same position they did with Mano 6's release. You could run Mano as the dance unit to buffer AoE potential, but it all depends on player preference. Still waiting to see that killer Hiyori P-SSR, but SSR 5 works pretty okay. Meguru as a center earns anywhere from a B+ to an A-. Meguru's memory appeal is perfectly fine right now. It can theoretically hit a little harder than Meguru 5, assuming your base stats are high, but some might prefer double damage appeals in this particular case. If you missed out on Mano 6, then Meguru 6 is a reasonable option and should probably take you pretty far if you build for it properly. As a unit, she earns about an A-. Meguru doesn't exactly hit the hardest with her appeal values, but she can certainly get your team set up with a fair number of buffs. If anything, this allows a combination of Meguru 6 and Mano 6 to work as a great backup for dance and visual teams that need the support. Lacking memory gauge boosting does hurt, but the lower requirement for her better appeal is a continually appreciated mechanic. She is a solid target for rerolls going forward. Next up, we have our first Shiz support card, Mikoto. I think we're witnessing another hilariously loaded up permanent support. If you never pull an extra copy of this card ever, you're still looking at a unit that provides plus 10 SP in the visual room, on top of all the other visual SP generators out there. Her 1 and 2-star bonuses are small but appreciated, and the access to a tiny amount of unit mastery stamina is great. Mikoto has solid passives, very much built for Shiz teams as we move forward. Her support skills are Idol's Bond, Promise Recovery, and Rest Boost, and she has 3 unique support skills. The first is Visual Mastery SP, reaching plus 16 at level 75. She has Visual Mastery Visual Limit, reaching +5 at level 70, and Unit Mastery Stamina, reaching +2 at level 80. Her support appeal does scale, starting at a Visual 2.5 out of the box, working its way up to a Visual 3.0 by the time she reaches level 80. Her TFD idea is Vocal, her Insight Token for Grad is Visual, and her Proficiency and Landing Point is Vocal. Mikoto's 1-star passive is a visual 30% up that requires you to be in the visual position. This has a 20% chance to activate once. Her 2-star passive is a visual 60% up that requires your total unique amount of units to be at least 3 or more. So this means that you would run She's alongside Illumination Stars or Antika. If you want more info on that, make sure to check out the Mikoto SSR review, as we go into a bit more detail as to what exactly that means. This passive has a 30% chance to activate once. Her 3-star uncap is a visual +100, and her 4-star appeal is a visual 3.0 that raises your visual by 35% for 3 turns. Mikoto's event passive is a visual 30% up that requires the turn count to be 2 or later. This has a 20% chance to activate twice. Mikoto honestly earns an A. Mikoto is a pretty slick card to find out of nowhere. While her gold passive basically means nothing to you unless you're building She's or building for Collabofest, the rest of her kit is immaculate. Again, I'm not sure if Visual She's is the wave or not, but it does support both cards, and I guess we'll find out as more producers get their hands on the support. I'm looking forward to it personally. I moderately recommend pulling for Mikoto. She is a perm, but she is a good perm. Next we have our event cards, starting with Kiriko. I don't really know what to make of Kiriko, to be completely honest. As an event SR, her damage values are expectedly low, though the link appeal damage sorta makes up for that. Not that it's really the goal of this card, mind you. The main things of note with this Kiriko is her appeals will heal you for 5% and 10% of your missing mental, respectively, and her link appeal off her memory appeal is a revival skill, of all things. I want to say that realistically the best use of this Kiriko is either for Collabofest or if you really need to save a run in Grad from a pesky judge or two. Mental healing has always been kind of a pitfall in Shiny unless your name is Alstramaria, because no other team really makes particularly good use of it, especially when you consider Antika still like revenge appeals, so healing on Antika seems kinda clunky. She's okay, but nothing spectacular. The fast outfit is pretty cute though, and the casual as well. Her roles are healer and revival, and you might as well farm for Kiriko while she's here. Kiriko's initial skill is a visual 1.5 appeal that heals you for 5% of your missing mental, and links into a visual 3.0. At max, she unlocks a Dance 2.3 appeal that heals your mental by 10%, and links into a Dance 3.0 appeal. Her 1-star passive is a Dance 12% up that requires your mental to be 75% or higher. This has a 40% chance to activate once. Her 2-star passive is a Dance 24% up that requires the turn count to be 3 or earlier. This has a 40% chance to activate once. Her 3-star uncap is a Dance +50, and her memory appeal when maxed out is a Dance 1.5 appeal that links into an auto revival. This has 3 turns to activate, so this means that the buff itself will last for 3 turns and then goes away. If your mental is to fall to 0 or below, depending on how the math works out, while this buff is active, you will revive with 20% of your maximum mental, and then the appeals will continue as normal. Kind of interesting overall, if you haven't seen Kiriko appeals before. For the support recommendations, Antika have great supports for visual and dance, so take what you can as you build Kiriko however you feel is most appropriate. Most of these cards we've talked about before, so just recall that Yuika and Mamimi ask for low health at least, which kinda goes against her healing, but at least the healing's not that big. The alternatives piggyback off the previous thought. Hokura have a great assortment of dance supports, while Antika, of course, still have tricks up their sleeve. Visual support is fairly tricky to work with outside of the usual Fuyuko-Amana combo, but you can also consider Mamimi as well if you don't use Wanderlust. Kiriko as a center earns a D. I don't think I need to tell you that Kiriko's memory appeal is pretty awful. While the concept of having a revival through the link appeal is cool, you run into the issue of this being on a team that needs at least 4 turns to get it set up, and there's a good chance you'll retire well before you need this revival if you even need it. The damage outside of this is low, and the utility is kinda clunky at best. As a unit, she gets anywhere from a D+ to a C-. I believe Kiriko's only real purpose is to act as a small safety net in Collabofest. She really does feel like a 2018 or very early 2019 card that just happens to have released a few years late. Actually, I take that back. Kiriko's best purpose is to reach 4 stars, so you can unlock the costume for all your other, much more functional Kiriko cards. Now there's a positive spin. Lastly, we have our returning card, Chiyoko. Our returning card from 2019 is Vocal Chiyoko, who under normal circumstances would be a great addition for Vocal Hokura. However, we very recently got another Vocal Chiyoko support from an event that's easily much better than this one, the merit of being 2 years apart at least. If you missed the last Choko, then here's your substitute. Her support skills are Idol's Bond, Promise Recovery, Rest Boost, and Perfect Mastery, and her unique support skill is Vocal Mastery SP reaching +4 at level 75. Her support appeal scales starting at a Vocal 2.5, working its way to a Vocal 3.0 at level 80. Her TFD idea is Vocal, her Insight token for Grad is Mental, and her proficiency and landing point is Vocal. Chiyoko's 1-star passive is a Vocal 18% up that requires you to be in the Vocal position. This has a 30% chance to activate once. Her 2-star passive is a Vocal 35% up and defense 30% down that requires you to be in first place. This has a 30% chance to activate once. Her 3-star uncap is a Vocal +50, and her 4-star appeal is a Vocal 2.5 that raises your visual by 35% for 3 turns. Her event passive is a Vocal 6% up that requires Chiyoko on your team, and has a 40% chance to activate twice. Chiyoko earns a C-. Her 4-star appeal is truly a relic of the past, as an attempt to buff off-stat at the cost of making yourself worse. She'd probably have been rated a little bit lower, but having at least +4 SP through her Vocal Mastery is better off than a lot of older event cards. If you missed out on Code Shooting Star Chiyoko, this again is your barely okay alternative. You might as well farm for Chiyoko while she's back. And that will do it for the video today. Thank you so much, as always, for watching. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to like it and send it around to people that might find this useful. Make sure to sub if you haven't already either. I'm watching those numbers. Next time we'll be talking about whatever banner comes next, so let's look forward to it together. I've been Cho, thanks for watching, have a wonderful rest of your day.